Like, it's because people don't actually want to learn. It's like they spend time like talking amongst each other about what types are and stuff like that, and they don't spend actual time trying to learn about it for real. All right, real quick. There's a different part of the intuitive bias narrative that I wanted to point out that isn't talked about enough. So, like, there seems to be a narrative or like somewhat of an assumption that beginners can make, but like people who do it in bad faith, most of the time, the people who do this a lot, they're doing it in bad faith. But there seems to be this narrative that um people assume like, okay, when they hear that intuitives are more rare than sensors, they have automatically going to assume that means that all sensors are just normie type of people and all intuitives are like all the special people and enlightened people. Um, which is the farthest thing from the truth. I'm going to say that, but it's a bunch of BS. And it's also just people not understanding what it means to be a certain type in Myers-Briggs. Like when people hear personality type and then they hear, okay, this type is rare, more rare than another type, they automatically think it's like, okay, that must mean that. Now I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything if your type is more rare, but like they look at it as the special, all the people in the world that are special and stand out are all just going to be intuitives. It is not true because first of all, personality isn't maybe isn't the best word to use. Well, but even though it is used to describe Myers Briggs as like they describe it as personality type, but like may not be the best word. It's more like your wiring or thought process towards certain conclusions, and those conclusions can be any conclusion depending on the individual. Um, like but yeah, like whether or not a person is special or something like that has absolutely nothing to do with type. You could be the most common Myers Briggs type, but you as an individual could be rare outside of that. It don't have nothing to do with how rare or special somebody is. It doesn't have anything to do with you being a normal, like super normie type of person, or versus you being a very unique person. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. Um, that completely has some things to do with the individual. Like you could be an intuitive, like people say, like what INFJs are rare. You could be an INFJ and be the most normal, um, fitting in type of person ever. And you could be an ISTJ, which people say is super common, right? You could be an ISTJ and be a super unique person. Um, People always pin the like normie type of stereotypes on SJs also because it's not because they are. The thing is, it makes a little bit of sense. I give you that because SJs tend to not care about being like super unique and rare and special. They like to probably at least like to care about it. But like a lot of times with SJs, yeah, when they're unique and special, they're not trying to embrace it. They just don't care about embracing it. But there's plenty of SJs that are unique and special. It's more like I know, like for instance, with ISFJs, they seem like the most normal people on the outside, but when you get to know them, they're actually very unique and interesting people. They just don't project it. They're very private about it. ESTJs, there's when you meet an ESTJ that's very unique and stuff like that. Um, they're very unique, but they're unintentionally unique and special. They're not trying to like project it all the time. And it's funny because the people that always want to talk about how special and unique they are, a lot of times they're not as special and unique as they make it seem like they are. They could be some of the most ordinary, normal people, but they think they're unique and special because they're not paying attention to what everybody else is doing. Oftentimes, they don't even realize everybody's doing that already. You're not special. You know what I'm saying? They just got egos, but that's what a lot of these people who attach themselves to being intuitive are a lot of times, man. And then another part to this thing, the normie versus special people narrative is like suddenly like there's a thing where people will think like just because a person has big aspirations and big goals and they seem to be ambitious or something like that, they think that that automatically means that they're an intuitive, and they think that all the people who don't have goals and stuff like that, and are not really ambitious. They think those are all the senses. Another thing that's the farthest thing from the truth. Whether or not a person has big aspirations or big goals has absolutely nothing to do with whether they're an intuitive in Myers-Briggs or a sensor in Myers-Briggs. Um, Also, like suddenly when people, another part to this too is people will type all the people that are like normal and not high achieving as sensors, but like all the celebrities, their favorite celebrities and their favorite like famous people, all of a sudden they're intuitive. Um, but it's like, bro, you can't say that intuitives are rare, but when it comes to all the celebrities, suddenly um they're the most common. When you're talking about what's more common, um sensors are going to be more common among celebrities just simply because there's more sensors in the world. It's not because we're better or something like that. It's really just because because intuitives are less common. So most people in general, whether it be celebrities, whether it be normal people who are not celebrities, whether it be whatever, you know, celebrities are no different than normal people. They're just in a different space, but they're just like everybody else. It's just a different scale. Like, but it's the same. Like senses are more common. Now there is a correlation between like maybe certain types. Yeah, there's certain types that are more likely to be celebrities, but like in general, most celebrities, depending on what field too, of course, but like a lot of them are senses. Not like by astronomical margin necessarily, but a lot of them are going to be. It's no different, bro. Like people assume just because somebody is high achieving, they're all of a sudden an intuitive. It's a lot of bias behind that. It's like um, they just want to make it seem like being intuitive is better. You know, that's really what it is. Um, but it's no different. Like sensors, like you got certain types of sensor types that are like super common, but like within that type there's there's different types of a certain type. Like if I say ESFP, for example, there's different types of ESFPs. Even though ESFPs are kind of common, individually ESFPs, they stand out in whatever environment they're in. um and they're not just like everybody else necessarily. Like from different ESFPs, they stand out in their own ways, unique ways that's subjective to the individual. But they all got certain qualities about them that kind of just blend them together or whatever, right? But it's just a common misconception. Like the reason why people do all this type of stuff is because people don't realize Myers Briggs is its own thing and it's its own system. Um, it's not like if people don't know anything about Myers Briggs, like if they're not thinking about Myers Briggs with certain things, it's a completely different system. It's its own thing. Like, um, just like how all the words, like when you talk about sensing, we're not talking about sensing as in like you go look up the book dictionary. I mean the dictionary definition of sensing. Oh, it says this is what sensing is in the dictionary. Bro, we're not talking about the dictionary definition of none of these words that we use in Myers Briggs. We're talking about these are like code names. Like, like on movies when somebody's a spy or something like that, and maybe they got a code name, Hawk or something like that. I don't know. I'm just thinking of a random potential code name from a movie or something. Like, let's say the code name is Hawk. Do they literally mean that that person is a hawk that flies through the air? No, it's not literal. They're talking about the code name. The reason why they call them Hawk is because maybe that person plays a specific role that reminds them of a hawk. But does it mean that they're literally a hawk? No, it does not mean that. Same thing with all the cognitive function names and things like that, and all the names like intuition. Now, intuition, yeah, it is kind of linked to actual intuition, but it doesn't mean that people who are intuitives are the only people that have intuition. Everybody kind of has intuition. You know what I'm saying? Now, intuitives. The reason why they're called intuitives is because they do um, go off of hunches and things like that, and they're like maybe more in touch. But it doesn't mean that it's only exclusive to intuitives and Myers Briggs. Like anything that you talked about in Myers Briggs, you need to exclusively call it Myers Briggs. You need to specify it as a Myers Briggs version of the word. Like if I'm talking about intuition, I'm talking about Myers-Briggs intuition, not intuition as if you went and looked in the book, the dictionary definition of it. When I'm talking about sensing, I'm talking about Myers-Briggs sensing. When I'm talking about thinking, I'm talking about Myers-Briggs thinking. People take these words literally sometimes, and they be like, when they now it's like when they go and type somebody, if somebody says, "Oh, I think," if they say "I think" a lot in a sentence, suddenly that means they're a thinker. It depends on the context. Like somebody could. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. Like if a person says "I think a lot," it could mean that they're a thinker. But you got to look at the context of what they mean when they're saying that. You can't just look at, "Oh, he said I think," or more commonly, I hear people will type somebody as a filler just because they see, "Oh, I feel like," "Oh, I feel." I say I feel like all the time. Does that mean I'm a filler? No, I say that all the time, bro. Like it doesn't mean that I'm actually a filler just because I say the word I feel. They're not talking about feel as in the dictionary definition of feel. They're talking about Myers-Briggs definition of feel. You know, people don't want to. It's like I don't know, bro. It's just it's like you're projecting your own meaning onto something that somebody else created. Like, well, they didn't create the word, of course, but like um, they're using the word to describe something that they specifically discovered. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people project their own definitions on the things they read instead of actually taking the time out to learn what they actually mean. Um, but yeah, all of that ties back into my main point, though. You know, people always want to assume all the normies in the world are sensors and all the special people are intuitives. Really, it doesn't. It doesn't have a correlation with between types. Um, it's really about the individual. An individual is special. It doesn't matter what type they actually are. Like you could be the most common type in the world, but then like you stand out amongst the people who have that type. Like you could be an ISTJ, right? Whether or not a person is special or not, they're special amongst other ISTJs too. They're not just special um, because they're an, whatever type. They could be special amongst every other ISTJ. They can just be an exception between ISTJs too. It's not just a type thing. People just like I said, people. I understand if you're a beginner, right? If you're a complete beginner, I get it. But like, there's people who've been like maybe learning about Myers Briggs for maybe 2 to 3 years that do this type of stuff still, and they, at a certain point, it's like, bro, like, come on, man. Like, it's because people don't actually want to learn. It's like they spend time like talking amongst each other about what types are and stuff like that, and they don't spend actual time trying to learn about it for real. They just go the lazy route. You know what I mean? Which is like, like I'm not saying you have to do it, but it's like if you want to claim you understand something, you can't do it incorrectly and be wrong about things and then claim you understand it. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing about it. But anyways, I think that's all I got to say about that. Um, stay tuned for more.